Namaskaram. The glory of the 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The story of the sinner Duraachaara. On the sacred banks of the holy river Tungabhadra stood a charming and prosperous town known as Hariharapuram. The town derived its sanctity from the presence of Lord Harihara, the divine manifestation uniting Shiva and Vishnu. It was widely believed that a single darshana of this Lord bestowed auspiciousness, purified sins, and fulfilled noble desires. In that blessed town lived a distinguished Brahmana named Haridiksha. He was deeply learned in scriptures, gentle in conduct, and firmly established in a life of austerity and self-restraint. Content with little, he dedicated his life to righteousness. His wife, however, was known among the people by the name Duraachaara, a title reflecting her shameful conduct. She spoke harshly and abusively to her husband, denied him marital companionship, insulted his guests, and freely associated with immoral men to gratify her uncontrolled passions. She was also enslaved by intoxicants and heedless of all social and moral boundaries. As the town grew and public scrutiny increased, she secretly constructed a small hut deep within a nearby forest where she could pursue her illicit activities without restraint. On one night, overcome by intense desire and unable to find any companion, she went alone to that forest dwelling. Finding it deserted, she wandered restlessly through the forest, tormented by passion. Her body weakened, her senses burned, and her mind grew confused. At last, exhausted and deluded, she sat down and began to cry loudly. Her lament awakened a hungry tiger that had been resting nearby. Drawn by the sound, the fierce beast rushed towards her. Hearing the approaching footsteps, she foolishly imagined that someone had come to satisfy her desires. But when she looked up, she saw a terrifying tiger standing before her. In desperation, she cried out, "O Lord of the forest, before you take my life, tell me why you have come here." The tiger restrained himself, laughed, and spoke in a human voice. "In my previous birth, I lived in the southern land near the river Malabara in the town of Muniparna, where Lord Shiva is worshipped as Panchalinga. Though born into a Brahmin family, I was consumed by greed and lacked control over my senses. I performed sacrifices for the unqualified, accepted food from worldly households, hoarded wealth in the name of worship, ridiculed righteous Brahmanas, and never practiced charity. Even when old age overtook me, when my hair whitened, my teeth fell, and my sight weakened, my craving for wealth never diminished. One day while begging, I mistakenly entered a house of deceitful persons. They set dogs upon me, and when one bit my leg, I fell and died instantly. As a result of my sinful acts, I was reborn as a tiger. By divine arrangement, I retain the memory of my past life. In this form, I do not harm devotees or chaste women. I sustain myself only by consuming the sinful and immoral. Since your life has been steeped in grave misconduct, you are destined to become my food." Having spoken thus, the tiger devoured the woman. After death, the Yamadutas seized her and cast her into a hell, a dreadful lake of filth. Thereafter, she was thrown into another hell, where she endured severe torment by 100 manvantaras. When those punishments were exhausted, she was reborn on earth as a female Chandala. Yet even then she continued in sinful ways and was afflicted with leprosy and tuberculosis. By rare fortune, she once came to Hariharapur, near the temple of Jambaka Devi Parvati. She beheld the great saint Vasudeva, who constantly recited the 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. From his sacred lips, she heard the divine teachings describing the field and the knower of the field, the distinction between body and soul, and the knowledge that leads to liberation. Drawn by the sweetness of that recitation, she listened again with growing faith. By the power of that hearing alone, she shed her impure body, became free from all reactions of past sins, attained a four-armed divine form resembling Lord Vishnu, and was escorted by the celestial beings to Vaikuntha, the eternal abode. Thus is revealed the extraordinary greatness of the 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as proclaimed in the Padma Purana. This chapter bestows true knowledge by revealing the eternal difference between the perishable body and the imperishable soul. It destroys ignorance accumulated over countless lifetimes and burns the seeds of karmic bondage. Even the most fallen, by merely hearing this chapter with faith, are purified, liberated from suffering, and elevated to the supreme spiritual realm. Therefore, the 13th chapter is a direct path to liberation and a divine bridge leading the soul to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Narayana, Narayana.